is ASTM and its importance to the pastel medium? Hi, I'm Nancy Nowak. I'm a professional pastelist and on the board of IAPS and on the education committee. And here I am with Richard McKinley, the president of IAPS, the International Association of Pastel Societies, and Shirley Anderson, who is our exhibit chairman on the board of IAPS, as well as Susan Weber, our executive director. I'm talking with today the materials team for IAPS, and we were discussing what is ASTM. And so Shirley, first of all, what is ASTM and what does ASTM stand for?
Well, Nancy, ASTM is an abbreviation for the American Society for Testing Materials. It was originally set up as an American society, but it has gone international now. So they call it ASTM International. It's a nonprofit organization, and it publishes approximately 12,000 different technical standards across the boards, from paints to plastics to whatever. Because they publish those standards, we're involved. The IAPS group is involved because we have only recently developed a standard for our pastels, and that's a light fastness standard. That does not have anything to do with the standard that ASTM created for health concerns. So we're talking about here light fastness, and we have a subcommittee that deals with that we meet with. But in order to talk about that, we need to define what light fastness is. It's a property of a colorant, and a colorant is a pigment or a dye. With pastels, we're talking about a pigment, and it's a property that describes how resistant to fading this pigment is when it's exposed to light. It could be exposed to sunlight, it could be exposed to artificial light. So that's what we're talking about here. There are a couple of well-known standard scales right now that are used with pigments. One is called a blue wool scale, and it has a numbering convention from 1 to 8, where 8 is excellent. It has a great deal of light fastness. And now ASTM has a scale that is Roman numerals from 1 to 5, where 1 is the most excellent light fast material. So I just say that so that as the artists start looking for labels on their pastels or their pigments, they can tell what the different scale is used. So that's really what we're involved with. That's really what we're talking about now. And I think Richard can tell us the history of how IAPS has been involved with ASTM, with developing that standard.
Mm-hmm. So Richard.
Yes.
What is the history of ASTM, and how long has it been going on?
Well, our involvement has been going on for a considerable amount of time, between 10 or 15 years, beginning with a mission of Urena Christie Tarbert, the founder of IAPS, to finally get pastel a light fast rating. All other fine art mediums within the United States have been operating with a light fast medium for considerable amounts of time. When I was a beginning artist close to 50 years ago, I remember my mentors teaching me to look for what Shirley's beautifully described. What is the light fast rating? How much can you depend on this pigment you're using, whether it's in oil paint, watercolor, or whatever? One of the last mediums that actually beat us was colored pencil, ended up with a light fast rating from ASTM system to be utilized by manufacturers. And that was a real catalyst for us to get re-involved. So our previous president, Liz Haywood Sullivan, acted as a representative for a long time and built a lot of bridges and did considerable work. And then when I became president, I put together this materials team, and we again formed a really strong working relationship. And with the leadership of the ASTM Fine Art Materials Committee under Michael Skalka, we were able to very quickly, within 2 or 3 years, they were able to finish their scientific testing, and ASTM now has that standard available. And at the end of the day, the reason the artist should care is because we want our work to outlive us. No matter if you're a hobbyist or not, my mother's paintings that are in my possession and my brother's possession are more valuable to us than they might be some great painting that is in the Louvre. But I want them to last, and I want to hand them on to the next generation. And so everything is volatile. Light has its effect on everything. Nothing is permanent, but we should be attempting to use the most permanent products that we can in painting. As my great mentor, Margaret Saul Moyer, always told me, you have but one law in painting, and that's to use as archival a products as possible. And that's your job. And so IAPS' role now that we have the standard is to continue our work with ASTM, but to also educate the working artist on what these light fast ratings are and what to look for, and to also encourage, just to encourage the manufacturers to embrace that standard and provide that information on their products that we all love to use. So that's basically our history and why it's important to all of us as artists as well as organizations.
Mm-hmm. Great. So as individuals, artists, and what is IAPS doing? Are they working with any of the manufacturers? Are we holding any of the manufacturers to the fire about these standards?
Well, the answer is no. Our job is not to be a policeman or an enforcer. In fact, in our first meeting, and I know Shirley and Susan remember this well, the manufacturers came up to us, some of them very thrilled that we were there, because they knew that we are a group that can reach a lot of artists as well as be a voice to manufacturers, especially the individual pastel manufacturers. They're not big operations, and it can be difficult to embrace this standard. So we're really just here to encourage, and we have no stick or fire, as you said, to hold them accountable to, but it's through education and artists just requesting it that then the manufacturer is encouraged to provide it, and then it becomes a win-win all the way around. They're proud of their products, and so they'll be proud of their ratings as well once the testing is done. And then as artists, again, we can look at what that stick says and know that we're using the best of the best.
That sounds fantastic. Good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And
Go on.
I would just like to thank the team, and I mean this sincerely. I mean, Shirley, in her background, one is a wonderful professional artist who's worked with pastel for decades. She brings that depth and breadth, but then her scientific understanding and working with the ASTM committee has been invaluable to us. And then our executive director, Susan, is on the administrative end, is continuing to make sure we're organized, and we're forming those relationships really through her. So I want to thank them as well as the education committee for providing us this platform. And I would just say, Susan, is there anything you want to share in your role on the materials team?
Well, I think that it is important, as you said, to build the relationships and to foster the communication with that committee, to show our willingness to work with them. It's been a long time that we've been available to them, but what we really are in a unique position to do is to build a bridge, as you said before, between the artists and the manufacturers. And IAPS, I think, is really a blessing to them in a way, because we are very we're standing back, but we're able to communicate in a peaceful way between manufacturers who may feel a little concerned about this and the artists who want to know, how their materials will stand up to the test of time. So I think that's our role, and I'm very interested in continuing to foster that communication.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Nancy. And
Oh, okay.
thank the whole team. So,
Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming here today, talking about ASTM.
so in conclusion, I just want to share one thing that I feel that all of us should feel very satisfied that we fulfilled Urena Christi Tarbert's mission with ASTM. And now our work lying ahead is to, again, keep putting the artists and manufacturers together and seeing that going forward. And Nancy, in your role on the education committee, I mean, the committee works on several different projects and missions in providing education. Could you share just a little bit about that?
Yes, we do that. We are starting to put together these videos. This is our fourth video. We did on framing, we did on exhibitions. All that information is on the IAPS website as well. We'll probably be doing a lot more videos. Also, our role is part of the grants that we're putting together, educational grants, as well as scholarships. And so keep looking for more information through the IAPS website. And thank you very much.